Good afternoon, everyone. So I want to start by just saying that you are asking the right questions today, starting with Mayor Peduto. You're basically saying, how do we preserve the magic of this special city while we grow? And how do we grow an economy for all? I would also say that you're asking the right questions at the right level. We have a presidential election less than a month away, but after that election is over, I guarantee you that the new leadership in Washington are not going to wake up every day and ask, how do we grow an inclusive economy in Pittsburgh? And your state capital, need I say more? So what we've been focusing on for the last year with a whole group of stakeholders in this city and in this metropolis is what is the innovation piece of inclusive innovation? What are your starting points? What are your special advantages? What's your distinctive play? And I just want to say three things, and then if you really are a glutton for punishment, you will join me later for a workshop, and we can really get into the details. Number one, I think the context for inclusive innovation has dramatically changed. We all know about technological complexity, material and digital, software and hardware. We all know about the move from closed innovation to open networked innovation and how that requires a new kind of collaboration across disciplines, across sectors, between companies and universities. What I want to put forward today is that we are seeing a level of competition in the world today because a whole set of technologies, general purpose technologies, whether it's autonomous vehicles, whether it's genomics, whether it's renewable energy, are moving from the lab to prototyping to mass production to ultimately ubiquitous adoption. And what's going to happen over the next 15 or 25 years as these technologies move into the mainstream of our economies is a certain group of cities are going to basically vault to the front. Think Detroit 100 years ago with the automobile. Think Silicon Valley 50 years ago with semiconductors. There are going to be a group of cities who not only invent the technologies, but they test the technologies, they prototype the technologies, and then they figure out how to make them inclusive, how to get their high schools and their community colleges to teach the right skills, how to grow a broad segment of entrepreneurs within their communities. We don't know which cities those are going to be. But if Pittsburgh is going to have a conversation around inclusive innovation, it has to basically aspire to be one of those cities. And the second piece about this next competition is that the spatial geography of innovation is radically changing. When you move from a closed innovation system to an open one that requires on networks and collaboration, you revalue proximity, density, vibrancy, vitality, authenticity, in a word, cities. And so I think the question that we're trying to answer with a lot of very talented and smart people here is what's Pittsburgh's position? And here's the starting point, because in some respects, Pittsburgh is like the it city right now, right? I mean, all you have to do, and it was talked about by many of the other speakers, is you look at national media, global media, and Pittsburgh is constantly seen as emblematic of a certain kind of resurgence. And we do find that. When you think about just your platform for innovation, you have these incredible anchors, CMU, UPitt, UPMC, that are actually doing advanced research in many of these areas of disruptive technology. You haven't seen the employment effect yet, but there's a reason why Google is here, and Uber is here, and Disney came here. They need to be near the secret sauce. The second thing is your spatial geography, built in the late 19th century, early 20th century, is actually perfect for the 21st century. When we take a look at where companies are growing, they're basically in the downtown, up strip to Lawrenceville, and then they're in Oakland. This is an incredibly concentrated area that we do not see in most cities in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, in Latin America. You have the right geography for innovation. The third bit is you do have a network. However people feel about each other here, you collaborate a lot better than most places I go to in the United States, right? You may not love each other all the time, but you do collaborate to compete. And you've done that for a very long period of time. There are headwinds to whether you can become one of these target cities, these select cities. We've already talked about a lot of this. This economy is not working for a lot of people here. And you saw the statistics chapter and verse. But there are also other headwinds. You're not really growing companies with large amount of jobs. You're starting companies, but they're not growing here. A lot of the jobs that are growing are coming, and it's a very good thing, from mature companies coming in from the outside, right? So there's a high growth entrepreneurship challenge that is very real here. The second piece is there are certain kinds of demographic challenges. We've talked a lot about the demographic challenges of inequity, and those are very real and very pronounced, and they will basically limit your ability to be one of these cities. But there also has been a loss of people between the ages of 35 to 55 over the course of many decades, which essentially means that there's a whole segment of talent that doesn't exist in this city and metropolis right now to help you basically get to the next stage. So most cities in the country are trying to attract the millennials, right? You've been able to do that for a whole bunch of reasons. What you're going to have to be thinking about is recruiting a certain segment of the population at older ages. What we're trying to do is basically, and I've heard this many times as well, is not produce another report, all right? You're exhausted. Frankly, everyone is exhausted, right? What we are basically trying to do is, with your stakeholders, partners, across a broad array of disciplines and sectors, produce some tangible, concrete ideas and initiatives that you can actually design, deliver, and finance. And that would have a transformative impact within a relatively short period of time. So 3 areas that we're thinking about, and if you are totally masochistic and you want to hear more about this, come to our workout session. Workshop, not a workout, maybe it is intellectually. Number 1, in these disruptive technologies, because they're not siloed, it's not like it was 15 years ago when we're going to have a life sciences initiative over here. We're going to have a technology initiative over there. There is a convergence across all these general purpose technologies. So how do you become the place that basically marries, as you're already beginning to do in certain areas, think traffic signaling, frankly, think autonomous vehicles, right? How do you begin to be the place that is able to move across multiple disruptive technologies, right? That is going to require a higher level of translational research and commercialization than is happening today, and is going to require a clear focus on the commercialization of research. And again, without a national government essentially checked in, and with a state that's frankly fairly hostile. Number 2, how do you grow smart density that is inclusive? I mean, think about how you're growing right now. You've got Oakland, you've got the downtown, you've got these other nodes, and in the middle, you've got the Hill District. And around these areas, you've got other impoverished and disadvantaged neighborhoods. You are the city that essentially has to basically densify, has to regenerate these disadvantaged areas of the city, but do it in such a way that you're not pricing everyone out, and you can include a broader segment of the citizenry in the prosperity that is being grown. There are ways to do that, though that's another area for recommendations. The last piece is skills. The next innovation economy is not just for people with doctorates from Carnegie Mellon. Great place, or from UPitt for that matter. It's for a whole segment of our population that have the technical skills, the credentials that they might gain in high school. They may actually start being exposed to at early ages, but they definitely can gain and obtain through community colleges and other technical institutes. You have got to be the place that creates a new kind of workforce development in the United States. I don't think anyone owns this right now. And again, there will be recommendations along these lines. So the good news, compared to most places that we do work in, is you have a very strong platform for innovative growth, and you have a very strong platform, we think, for inclusive innovation. But it won't just happen. You're going to have to be intentional, you're going to have to be purposeful, you're going to have to be focused like a laser beam. Because in 10 or 15 years, I think when you hold whichever P4 conference it'll be at that point, the question will be, did Pittsburgh leap forward to become one of those cities, global cities, 25 cities around the world, that is truly not just on the ground floor of technological innovation, but technological innovation that really works for a broad segment of your citizenry? Thank you very much. Come to the workshop.